All right, so I should maybe also tell the audience why we invited you, and we wanted to make it last year, but couldn't for timing reasons. But as we keep saying, Applied Machine Learning Days is a conference for curious optimists. And optimists, I think it's obvious. Pessimism is rampant. I think you spoke about this. Optimism is needed, but it often comes with this baggage of being called naive. And we felt like, okay, no one's going to call Garry Kasparov naive, so that's a good thing. But speaking of pessimism, I wanted to show this picture, and sorry for maybe slightly bad image, but it's a good local context. It's a book I happened to come across. Don't ask me why, about castles here in the region from the 80s. And actually, what this says here is 1 machine equals 30 grape pickers in the title. And if you read this text in French, I mean, it's all about optimism. This is great progress. And today, if I would go on stage and say, I have a machine and it's going to replace 30 jobs, I would probably be booed off the stage. And so it's quite remarkable that this happened in 30 years. Do you have an understanding of why that happened so fast?
But by the way, let's go back to what I said about 10 minutes ago on the stage. So yes, it's this, you're talking about machine replacing 30 jobs in Switzerland and France and Germany, but it could probably mean improving, if not saving, 30,000 lives in other parts of the world. So let's understand. So it's called progress. And by the way, this is something that is just again, we heard from distinguished representative of WHO here. So we all have to be so cautious in making, bringing new drugs. And I agree, that's very important. But we just forget that, without risk, there are no rewards. So it's this, how are we going just to make progress if we just, if we want everybody to be happy? No, that doesn't work this way. No. We think we live at a time of this greatest technological expansion. Okay, I don't want to spend too much time arguing, but you just look at the, let's say, end of the 19th century and look at what the person who was born, let's say in 1870, and lived for 65 years, even just not, witnessing the World War II, what this person could actually witness in his or her life. And you probably recognize that the changes that we're facing today are not that significant because it's the nature of science. You cannot control it. It's always unpredictable, and that's exactly the point of breakthrough.
Yeah.
So that's why we understand there will be casualties on this way, but there are always benefits that will overwhelm it. We don't know how things will turn around, but very often, the greatest things that happen, they're always the side effects. It's not exactly, this is what has been the original target.
Right.
That people say, oh, why we're still wasting money for space exploration? I mean, my question is, so when did last time you look at this device? Because this device is the entire device is a product of space race. GPS, ARPANET, it's all, came out of the 60s. Yeah. So then it was commercialized, but basically the all ideas have been developed throughout this, what people believe is wasteful exercise of colonizing near space. Yeah. And I think that we are reaching a point where we think that it's everything we do should be well thought. We should protect everybody. I'm happy to just to keep spending our resources to promote things horizontally. It's very important, but not at the expense of going vertically.
Right.
Because it's how many new drugs one of you recall in the last 20, 30 years? New drugs, not tiny improvements. None. Because it's too costly and, by the way, too risky for any for multinational pharmaceutical company to do. That's why they spend 2/3 of their budgets on advertising. Naturally, because if you come up with a drug that could save millions of lives, but in the process you can hurt 10 people, you will have 10,000 lawyers going after you. Yeah. And your company can be ruined. So it's just, the simple thing is, I talk to experts, and as a visiting fellow at Oxford Martin School several years ago, I run workshop with top experts in Oxford on biomedical research. And the man who ran the same lab where Alexander Fleming came up with penicillin in 1926, he bluntly said that today penicillin will be killed at the first test, because roughly every fifth person develops an allergy. So it's very important for us to recognize that we have to restore the balance of risk and rewards if we want to reap the benefits.
Right. All right, so let's talk a bit about chess. So you mentioned this cover.
Yep.
And you said
I did.
No pressure.
No.
Yeah.
Today, no pressure.
Today, yeah, exactly. So thanks for the segue. So what is it? Can you walk us through this moment? I mean, what was it like for you? And you go into depth, obviously, in this book. Great details also about that the game perhaps wasn't exactly a fair game, and Deep Blue crashed and things like that. Can you just give us a bit of a
look? It's very much water under the bridge, you know. I say, they say, but it's if you look at this from a scientific perspective, and again, I can speak about it in easily 20 years, so long time, more than 20 years, 22 almost. But you know, there were a couple of things that made this match uneven, and one is that I was not very cautious, actually, was complacent, not reading fine print of the agreement, because one of the key elements of the agreement, that's from my perspective, was to avoid problems in '96 when I lost game one in the match, though I won later, beating machines 3 times. So I wanted to have access to machine games. And I insisted that it would be a clause, but the clause actually, fine print said, games played in official competitions. And you can guess Deep Blue hasn't played a single game outside of the lab. So that's why for me it was still black box. Right. But the most important thing was, it's about the rules of engagement, call this. Because it's machines can crash. Now, you have to identify the conditions of the crash. So if it's electric grid, so be it. But if you want to have fair competition, crash means heart attack. So call, ambulance and just, and game over. So the machine crashed several times, a couple of times at the crucial moments of the game. Again, I'm not here to speculate. I'm just saying what's happened is, and there was no way to actually identify the reason of the crash. Because the problem was, the moment you reboot the machine, all experts know that, you cannot reconstruct the game. If you want to actually verify that machine played its own game, you need uninterrupted sequence of moves. The moment you have 1 second out of this equation, that's it. The game cannot be reconstructed. So there were very odd moments, and I also think that we needed clear access not only to machines output on the screen, so that's what we could see, but also the programmer's communication with the machine, which nobody could see, even the referee, who by the way was Ken Thompson, the father of Unix, who was actually watching this, but he couldn't see actually the backside communication between programmers and a computer. Look, was it unfair? Absolutely. IBM wanted to win the match at any cost. Does it matter today? No, because as I said, the outcome of human-machine was already a writing on the wall. So I could have done better, probably would have played another match. But again, the moment you separate Garry Kasparov's wounds and sufferings, psychological sufferings, from the interests of humanity and science, so I'm quite happy that I was part of this experiment. Yeah. Today.
Yeah. Today, exactly. So you have this really beautiful paragraph, and forgive me if I quote it here, but you write at the end, towards the end of the book, you write, draw that out as a timeline, thousands of years of status quo, of human dominance, a few decades of weak competition, a few years of struggle for supremacy, then game over. And for the rest of human history, as the timeline draws into infinity, machine will be better than humans at chess. The competition period is a tiny dot on the historical timeline, but it gets all the attention because it feels so intensely. So but this, to some extent, right, this is a repeatable pattern, as you keep mentioning. I mean, why do we keep having this hang-up? I mean, to some extent, right, we can look back at history again and again and again and say it was the exact same thing. Why do we continue having?
It's not, look, it's history. We're talking about maybe the last few decades. So and humans are competitive. So that's why it's chess, machine prevail in chess. Now let's try Go. Let's try Dota. Let's try StarCraft. Let's try Texas Hold'em poker. Now, as a rule, as I said, and it's very clear, any closed system, framework with well-defined goals, leave it for the machines. So the future of human contribution to the human-machine relations would be to actually create these well-defined frameworks and to carve them out of open-ended space. Because if machine is just allowed to make all this calculation open-ended space, it will never recognize the moment it reaches the territory of diminishing returns.
Right. So we had a great conversation, right, at dinner. I mean, so you're this, as you say, this extreme optimist, and it's pretty obvious, and we think that's great. At the same time, you're obviously, like everyone else, but you're outspokenly very critical of authoritarian regimes. How do you combine these two views? On the one hand, you see this technology that people are worried about, and you say, don't worry about it, but then at the same time, you're presumably worried about regimes using this technology against.
But again, it's about expectations of people that technology, it's like I talked about driverless cars, it should always bring us good. I used to say that, and I keep repeating it, technology is the main reason why so many people are still alive to complain about technology.
Yeah, right.
And we forget about it. So we don't live 45 years in average as 100 years ago, we live 75 plus.
Yeah.
Thanks to technology. But because we live longer, we complain that younger people have unfair advantage because of technology. So the same is about the way technology is being used. Technology is agnostic. The real problem is not killer robots, the Matrix, the Terminators. The real problem is bad guys that can use this technology to harm us.
Yeah.
Which is quite ironic. People who run the unfree world, the dictators and thugs and terrorists, use technology invented and produced in the free world to undermine the very foundation of the free world. But that's what the problem is. And this is not a problem of technology. Just speaking about ethic AI. What do you mean ethic AI? So do I have ethics? How can we identify ethics in this room? And that's quite, I would say it's quite cohesive. Now, what about 8 billion people? So we're trying to actually, force machines to do or to think just with a common denominator that doesn't exist in the world today. No, we definitely try to improve, human relations, but those are social, political, financial elements of the big picture. And trying to separate tech from the rest is just, doing great disservice and helping bad guys to continue doing what they have been doing.
Mm-hmm. So I don't want to take too much time, and I promise we're going to have a lot of time for questions from the audience. So there are 2 mics, if I see this correctly, in the hall. So if you would like to ask a question, then please could you just line up, and we'll go through them as many as possible. And while you do that, I have one last question. So this thing that you mentioned that's now, I think, known as Kasparov's law, where let me see if I get this straight. So a machine with even a weak human but better process beats machine with a strong human and weaker process.
Yeah, process is key, yes.
Process is key. And
interface is a decisive factor.
So you mentioned it, but can you clarify exactly what you mean by process?
Process, okay. It's by the way, for those who are asking questions, you don't have to be polite. So, and go ahead and ask whatever you want. I'm not a politician, we're not in Russia. Let's imagine that the combined task is 100%. And we have to live with reality that our role will be sort of in the last few decimal points. But it's still key role. So this is, and we just have to understand exactly how we use our human input to help this very machine to solve this very task. It's like, pilot of Formula One. So you have to know your car. You have to know exactly what you should do just to make it this combination most effective. And it's not always the same. And that's why very strong-minded humans, great experts, sometimes they could be really irritated by machine superiority in let's say, 95% of the territory, and they could start challenging it. Forget about it. You should know exactly what machine can do, whether it's 92%, 95, 94, and be perfect in compensating for machine deficiency, recognizing what is the remaining percentage where machine needs your input. Right. And that could be, by the way, even if you're talking about 0.5%, it still could be huge difference. Because if you install 1.5 in the wrong territory, so it could have a negative effect. So that's about interface. So the moment humans recognize what is exactly needed for this machine to solve this specific task, that's the best process, and it's the interface that will make this combination unbeatable.
Unbeatable, yeah. Very good. So let's start there, and thanks for keeping your question somewhat short and concise, so we can go through as many as possible.
I think I'm a terrible person to start with the short and concise because I have a little anecdote for Garry, but I'll try to be as quick as I can. Inara Samidowa with the Global Fund to fight AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. And if you don't mind, I'll try to use my notes here because I'm a terrible public speaker. But they're on a phone, so that's technology bonus points for this conference. I came here with the full intention to enjoy your presentation and to be able to ask a question on AI and public health. Made a huge mistake of texting my parents back in the US about attending the conference and got bombarded by about 100 messages to relate to you. So I'm going to be really brief. Apparently, my dad had an opportunity to play chess with you back in Baku, and who would have thought you won? Just a wild guess. You also taught my brother at the chess masterclass when he was 7, but I'm really sorry to report he did not become a masterclass chess champion. But most importantly, and this one is from my mom, apparently in the early 80s, you brought extremely rare medicine for my grandfather, which has prolonged his life. You brought it from Spain, from our common friend, Azer Zainali. And so my mom asked me to thank you, because it meant a huge deal for my family. My dad requested an autograph. I said, there's about 500 people here, I won't be able to do that. He said, no big deal, get a selfie. So unless you want me to get zoned by my family, I hope that at the end you'll be able to take a photo with me. But now to my question related to public health. As we know, investment in technology in the developing countries is very often deprioritized. So we often face situations where we're building a hospital in developing countries, we have a ribbon-cutting ceremony that gets featured in newspapers, but the hospitals don't get equipped with the technology necessary to actually service the patients. There's no database systems, there's no health management systems, there's no inventory management systems. So considering your political involvement and your work in the Human Rights Foundation, I was wondering how would you encourage the public and private partnership and the governments to prioritize involvement and investment in AI and in technology in general when it relates to public health? Thank you so much.
Just to clarify, so you talked about developing countries, but then you just asked a general question at the end. So
my question is how to encourage the governments and public-private partnerships to invest further in the developing countries towards technology.
Look, I'm afraid we're opening Pandora box here. I've been working with my colleagues in Africa. I visited 22 African countries, so just short visits, promoting chess for education. And I could see just how people live in these countries. And my experience is that most of this humanitarian aid, which is very important, is still, they need some sort of metrics for the results. That's why most of the money is invested in food, in simple medicine, in vaccination, which helps to save lives. Unfortunately, nobody cares what happens next. By the way, a lot of stuff that goes there is expired. I don't want to insult anybody who's working there. I saw it with my own eyes. I can stand by my words. That's business. So it's a massive business, and it's all about data, metrics of success. And what you said, who cares? Because this just treating patients that are just in their 30s, 40s. It doesn't improve the metrics of success. So that's why most resources are allocated in the areas where they could simply present presentable results. So I think we just have to be more open about it because we have potential. It's not that we are missing tools. We don't have resources. We do have them. But it's about prioritizing this, as you said. And I think it's a political task. And again, it's very important we start thinking about us as about human race. So how can we just spread benefits to humanity? And not to spend all the time worrying about jobs being lost in the developed world.
Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go over there.
Hello, good night. First of all, I would like to thank you for being here with us. And first a comment. It seemed you like to play games like Dota.
No, I don't. I just read about it. I'm just I was good on one game.
Okay, so I won't.
Quite good, but it was some time ago. Yeah.
Well, and now the real question. You said that the computers are much better than us in an environment which is fully closed with pretty good rules. Yeah. And they cannot beat us in an open world, let's say. Was not this what Alan Turing or Shannon will say?
Look, it's quite unfortunate that these great minds haven't lived long enough to actually define these problems. Yep. So they basically developed the whole industry, but these questions remain unanswered. Again, I don't know what happens in 1,000 years, in even 100 years, not even 15 years. But when I look at the so-called revolutionary breakthroughs that people are expecting, like quantum computing, it's not happening anytime soon. So that's why from what I know, machines cannot operate in the open environment simply because the goal has to be defined. So when people say us, what about conscious machines? So again, in my mind, conscious doesn't go along with odds because every machine should operate with odds. So it could be very sophisticated as AlphaZero, but at the end of the day, it still will look at the odds. And in many cases, when we're talking about conscious, odds could be counterproductive for us to make a decision. So I can refer you to a great book of another founding father of AI, Joseph Weizenbaum. It's Human Reason and Computer Power, more than 40 years ago, when he talked about a very subtle difference about choosing and deciding. Arguing that deciding is computational, while choosing is human.
Thank you.
Let's go over there.
Yeah, very interesting talk. Thank you. I'm Annika Schumann from IBM Research, and I'm very curious about what you think about the interplay between man and machine. You had a very interesting graphic where you said state that the world champions were around 2,850.
Yep.
And now we have the best computer at around 3,600, coming up with very creative moves. Now, for the current world chess champions that can actually play with this 3,600 machines, what effect will it have on their ability? Where do you see their strengths going?
Can I stand? I mean, just,
sure.
It's better for breathing system.
Yeah.
So look, it's useless to play, again, just simply because machines don't make the same mistakes. So it's the only competition that makes sense is if you have a human empowered by a weaker computer facing a stronger computer. But human versus machine competition, I said, it's like, Usain Bolt running with Ferrari. So maybe few, 30, 40 meters, they can compete. But then the competition is over.
My question is, in five years, what number will the world chess champion has?
Rating, no, as you could see, the increase in human rating is almost linear. And it's based more on inflation. Okay. Because it's not, you can still have the best humans, and this is a gap between top human player and the rest of the field. So, and with more players in the field, so the gap still remains the same, but the numbers are going slightly higher. So while machine, it's not linear, but it's exponential. Though it's still interesting to find out how far Alpha, Zero, or similar programs can go. Because we don't know. It's just 3600, could they do 4000? We don't know. I have no idea. One of the reasons is that why I'm a bit, just cautious in making any predictions, because you look at the average human chess game, it's 45 to 50 moves. You look at the games played by two machines, it's probably, I would say, 75 to 80 moves. The average machines make fewer mistakes, so the games are longer. Now, when you look at the databases that are available for every position, including 7 or less pieces, that's about 100 terabytes. So, and this is not chess, it's mathematics. You have 7 pieces, let's say 2 kings, 2 rooks on both sides and 1 knight on the other side. So for instance, 7 pieces. Every 7-piece position. Some of these positions can be solved in 500 moves. Now, if you have 7 pieces positions that could be played with perfect play from both sides for 500 moves, so what does it tell you about the quality of the games we play that lasts 45 or 50 moves? So there's still many open-ended questions, and what I think is that actually Alpha Zero experiment could actually help us to understand more about machine's ability to create its own data and how we can actually extract the data to improve our concepts.
Thank you.
Please.
Hi. I have one question regarding the synergy between the human intelligence and machine intelligence. So, in one limit, if we use too much technology, we don't train our brain enough, and we become, let's say, a bit less intelligent. So the question is, what do you believe is like an optimal way for human intelligence to use it for us adults and, for example, for the kids? And a sub-question, wouldn't you think that also it's a more fair competition, for example, human and machines, to restrict also the power or energy that is consumed? For example, if you ate an apple during a match, you have an equivalent amount of energy that Deep Blue can use.
Look, you speak like a hurt human. Look, when I played computers, so I believed it was a great experiment. So to understand also human potential, because machines have been programmed by humans, how far we can go. And I don't understand so how we can have universal recipe, so you shouldn't spend too much time, with machine, because, you don't have to multiply, 3 or 4 digits numbers in your brain, so you can use a calculator. So it doesn't make you less creative. So it's about us finding the way to unleash our creativity. That's what I think is important. So we know now we're doing so much work that can be done by the machine. So, but how can we use effectively the time that will be released to actually understand who we are? So I think somehow machines will help us to understand, so to make us more human, to understand so what we are able to achieve by having so much power. Of course, we could easily get complacent, we could get lazy, but that's a challenge. Again, it's not solving our problems, it's not diminishing us. It puts a new challenge that we just have to solve, to meet. And regarding kids, yeah, obviously, if they spend all the time watching the screen, so it's maybe not very productive. So and we know that social media just often just creates virtual reality in their minds. But again, it's about parental guidance. So I have 4 kids, but there's 2 kids. That's with my wife now. My daughter is 12, and the little one is 3.5. So obviously she's far more effective in just doing everything with computers, but she's a voracious reader. So I'm very, very happy that she likes reading more than actually looking at the screen. So she spends a lot of time on the screen, but she still likes the smell of the fresh print.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Hello, thank you for the most inspiring talk. Vasily Demyanov, Hertwat University. I was very taken by your point about computers learning on the self-simulated data and overperforming the computers learned on the human-observed data, because this is actually a big philosophical debate whether what is data? Is it the data what we observe, or is what we simulate based on some knowledge is also data? So my question is, how would you compare the learning capacity of the machine learning based on, like, chess computer, based on the rules which are die cast in stone, so infinite combinations, but still the rules are solid. And we are modeling Earth systems. This forum, lots of talks about modeling how nature performs, trying to make computers mimic the natural system. So, and the machine which is learning, trying to learn the nature's behavior, response, where the rules may be kind of turned in a moment, like you're playing a chess and then actually the rules are for checkers. I would like to...
But that's exactly your role. That's exactly, I believe, it's the future role of humans. So imagine if you use the images of nature, imagine you're a shepherd and you have a flock of intelligent algorithms and you have to nudge them towards a rich pasture of data to generate most effective knowledge. So that's your role. So it's just, you're a shepherd. So you just have to make sure that this very program will be empowered by the exact, it will not be like chess or Go. The rules still, they can vary, but you have to create as close system as possible. So, and then machine will do the job. So it will not be always perfect, but it will help you to actually to make this virtual simulation as you do with driverless cars. And you will never reach this perfection, but you come closer and closer to understand how the nature could be mimicked. Because machines will, again, in the closed garden, it will actually help you to find the best algorithm of replacing it with something more productive.
Your turn.
So machines are obviously much superior to humans in chess. So competition doesn't really make that much sense, but I was still curious because lots of top games end in draws. So if you or, say, Magnus played a 100-match game against AlphaZero, do you think you would have a shot of getting any draws against the computer?
In Go, we already know it's not going to happen. It's probably every game machine will win because, again, it's too complex. I think Magnus, at his best day, maybe can draw a few games against machine with white, so there's a good chance with white pieces. But again, it will be one-sided match. So it's because, again, it's, problem with when you look at two humans playing a game of chess, and I'm talking about, let's say, world championship match. I played quite a few games at that level, and I've analyzed these games. And what I found out, of course, using chess engines, when you analyze these games, even the games that have been trumpeted as the greatest, ever played, you always find inaccuracies. So it's impossible to imagine a human game that is perfect. Yeah, even the best games, you have tiny, not blunders, not mistakes, inaccuracies. In human chess is hardly noticeable because if let's say we play and I'm winning position, I'm a little bit complacent and you are desperate. So now with machines game, human versus machine, I mean, you have to show the level of precision that is unseen, unheard of in the human competition. So that's why I think it doesn't make much sense. But just, following the first part of your comment is that, but if I could have access to a computer, even not a great one, that could change everything. Because if I get a good position, I could switch to the machine. I will not make mistakes. That will be enough for machine to deliver the point. So, and I think there's a few interesting experiments to be carried with AlphaZero and engines like Stockfish. Again, but I don't want to overwhelm people with the specifics. I discussed with Demis, and I think you'll see more experiments coming out. Again, it's not for chess. But I said it's like a Drosophila of reasoning. It's actually recognizing how we can use chess as the training field to see the how this potential could be extrapolated to other far more important areas than black and white chess, black and white boards.
How you doing with the voice? Still good?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah?
My voice is still good. I'm just counting people. It seems that the queue doesn't get shorter.
All right, go ahead.
Hi, Gary. I'm happy to see you because I'm Marat from Geneva, and before you used to come often with Dan Shapira to play chess games in Intercontinental Hotel.
Yes. Annette Kaplan, Madame Kaplan, yes?
Yeah, Annette Kaplan, exactly, yeah, sure. Last time I saw you in Geneva, you were promoting investment fund with your friend Maxime Dlugy.
It was a long time ago.
Yeah, but you certainly made a lot of money because at that point the Russian market was quite low. Okay, and you used to like James Bond and Japanese restaurants, so I'll be happy to take you when you come to Geneva next time. I have two questions concerning artificial intelligence. First of all, and I'm also a believer, optimistic about artificial intelligence. Now, there are some limits, as you mentioned it, and, well, you're fighting for human rights. Authoritarian regimes are very good at exploiting the capacities in harming democracies, and we see it with the US elections, we see it also with breakfast. Some say that also now this Gilets jaunes protest in France have also some influence. I mean, and it doesn't cost much, right? All those trolls and bots have been done quite easily. So do you believe there is a possibility, doing a backdoor or whatever, at some point to moralize artificial intelligence or to give it some ethics in order that it's really good? And it's because at some point the risk is that it can decide that, you know, becoming much more intelligent than a human, that I want to do whatever it seems to me, right? So what you think about this? And the second question will be, I mean, the problem in the West, not only that the jobs are lost, but all the experts will tell you that the mental health is deteriorating here, and it is due well, mostly to those machines. So do you have an idea how to improve this as well, and or to stop the decline of the mental illnesses?
Mental illnesses?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what it is.
Yes. After I published this article, Chess at Drosophila of Reasoning, I received already 2 bot automated requests to make comments on Drosophila and health issues. So that tells you about the current status of AI. So as for attacks on Western democracy, and it just goes way beyond US elections. Actually, it was the last stop. Brexit, the rise of AFD in Germany. So we can go Italy, it's anywhere where they can have sort of easy prey. But the reason is, you have on one side, which is weaker, whether it's Putin or other thugs and terrorists and dictators, but they are determined to continue this hybrid war, and they spend money. European Union is still debating whether to spend 1 or 2 million euros a year to defend against multi-billion-dollar industry created by Putin. So it's not about, again, lack of tools. It's about lack of political will. Because, if you still want to buy gas from Russia, and that's your big concern, you will not be spending money, defending your democracy against Putin's attacks. So first, you should recognize that there is a threat. You can lose any war, even if you are superior forces, if you don't recognize you're at war. And right now, what we're seeing in Europe, very slowly, grudgingly, Europe recognizes that there is a threat. And it's a serious threat, but again, it goes way beyond the subject of this conversation. But the bottom line is, it's not about AI. Again, it's trying to moralize AI is just wrong because it's a tool. Yeah, of course you can. If you have nuclear technology, you can have a nuclear bomb or nuclear reactor. So it's just any technology can be used to harm people. It can cure illnesses, or it could actually kill people. by spreading diseases, creating biological weapons. So it's about people, and it's about political will, and about our recognition that the world is not a perfect place. And we're still surrounded by those who are trying to harm us, unfortunately using technology that we keep inventing.
But it's now become much easier to do this than before. And the West can actually, NATO has spending a lot of money, especially the US, right, in cyber warfare. So they could have stopped it.
Exactly. But it's not about spending. It's about, you don't have to spend too much. Capacity of the United States and Europe to stop any attacks by imposing deterrence, by simply, warning that there will be devastating blow. It's more than enough to stop it, but again, you have to demonstrate your willingness to fight back. So far, again, the buying gas is a much higher priority, definitely for German government.
Yeah. And there's also global surveillance.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's go over there.
Good evening. So you have managed to convince me that you're more intelligent now than when you played against Deep Blue.
Oh, thank you very much. So it's a compliment for my age, by the way.
Yeah. So are you now a better chess player?
No, much worse.
So could you maybe reason about why? And to me, that almost means that chess is an obsolete game for human. And can you suggest a new game that is fun and designed for intelligent human beings?
Look, game, means that you need other qualities that simple intellect. It's your ability to execute a strategy. I'm still quite good in telling you what you should do at a chessboard, but in order to play the game, I have to sit for 6 hours to keep my concentration, which is impossible because, look, I'm 55. Yeah, turning 56 in a couple of months. So I have other things in my head that will overwhelm my concerns about chessboard. Facing guys who are 25, Magnus Carlsen 28 now, it's impossible. He's half of my age, and he has far more energy to execute his strategies, not to make the same mistakes, and to stay concentrated throughout the game. It's a use factor, and use means concentration. And also, they don't need to spend so many years accumulating this knowledge because machines help them to get well educated in chess at much earlier age. So today, it's not surprising that many top players, they're younger than they used to be because energy becomes far more important factor since they can compensate lack of experience by learning with computers.
So should I still play chess, or should I
look,
go on
absolutely.
to another game?
Oh, no, you should play chess. I do play chess for fun, so it's the...
Hello, my name is Dima Leginov. Thank you very much, Gary, for your lecture, and I think special respect from Russians here in auditorium. I'm very excited of your optimistic and energized here, and so actually, is it because you are outside of Russia? Is the first question, and another one, a little bit personal. Did you get any life rule or credo out of your chess career that you still use actually in everyday life and can advise young people here? Thank you very much.
The answer to this first question is very simple. I left Russia 6 years ago. It was not my first choice, but coming back would be one-way ticket. So, and I used to buy a round trip. Yeah, and I'm here, I could talk to you just because I had to make this very painful choice. Now, about my motto, it's very simple. I don't remember exactly, probably 10, and my mother put a motto on top of my bed, which said, in Russian, "Если не ты, то кто же?" In English, "If not you, who else?" And that's the still motto of my life. It's not about winning or losing, it's about making the difference. So that's why I managed to leave professional chess and do what I'm doing now, just writing books, delivering these lectures, doing human rights things, because I believe I could make the difference. Not as great as I did in the world of chess, but still my presence, my appearances could make the difference and help other people to look into the future.
Hello, thanks for the great talk.
I'm trying to count. Thank you.
Kirill Nikitin, EPFL. We mostly hear now about machine learning improving healthcare, self-driving cars, beating chess players, and so on. My question is, how do you expect ML to improve our democratic institutions? For example, can we train a model of a parliament and make 600 million laws and make something better?
I have to repeat again, it's for us to find a way of using machines for good. You don't expect machines to do it for us, because human relations is open-ended system. And there's so many factors that cannot be simply calculated, because we don't do things because we were told so, but because we want it. So it's not easy, actually impossible for machines to actually take into account billions and billions of individuals that could move right, left, and the center. And it's not simply about numbers, but it's about all these numerous interactions. Speaking about this our, it's our democracy and about machines. I think that we cannot make projections into the future without actually analyzing the results of the past. So I think that is just when we talk about present crisis. So the most important results of the past that have been very often discarded because it's antique. So when I talk to young audiences, I could always find out that for many in the audience, Soviet Union is as ancient as Troy. It just existed. And I think we just have to extrapolate results of the past and understand what's happening during the Cold War and the World War I, World War II. So because you cannot move into the future without simply eliminating this experience. Maybe AI can help us to do that, but again, relying on machine advice, I think would be again, it's another show of complacency, because it's for us to actually decide how we're going to live. And I'm a great supporter of the free market and liberal democracy. I just believe that's, those are two pillars of the most successful society. And I'm really concerned is probably understatement. I'm terrified by the attacks on these pillars from both sides. The nationalist right attacks liberal democracy, and far left attacks market economy. So I think it's very important for us to understand what are the key elements that we want to use to build this future, and then to use AI and to use all these technologies, by the way, invented in the free world. Just recognize the fact that it's everything we have is just it's a result of the great innovation bonanza of the free world. It doesn't come from the Soviet Union or from China. So I think it's for us to understand what are the key components of the future. So we want to build, and I think AI will help us. But again, don't rely on it to tell you what's right, what's wrong, because it's us, making this projection. Okay, the line doesn't get shorter. I mean, that's my concern.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the.
We'll deal with it. We have about 19 minutes, so keep questions short and crisp. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for being here tonight. I'm a neuroradiologist, so I'll forgive your comments on my.
I apologize. So I know I have to hurt someone in the audience. Yes.
So we know from functional MRI studies that there are differences in how genders approach problems, even if the brains anatomically look the same. You mentioned also that you have 2 young daughters, and wondering...
One daughter, one son.
Oh, one son, okay.
Actually, I have 2 daughters, 2 sons, previous marriage, so it's daughter, son, so that's my... Okay. So I have some experience.
So I have an 18-month-old daughter, a little bit younger than yours. But I'm wondering if you play chess with your children, specifically your daughters. And if you do you discuss the apparent discrepancy in at the elite level of chess between the genders, and what your thoughts are on that apparent discrepancy? in the level of ability between men and women at the elite level of chess?
Look, my kids do not play chess, I have to confess, so my wife wasn't happy, but it's just, somehow I believe it's laws of genetics that tell us that I have to look for my grandchildren. For the great talent. Look, I'm not an expert in the field, but the fact is that we still have this we call discrepancies. So it's what we know that is from Judith Polgar, the most successful female player in history, that at one point she made top 10, and she was the formidable opponent for all of us. So which means that there are no limitations biologically for female players to beat even the strongest male players. But I think it's very much a reflection of the social situation, because you need numbers. So you need numbers, and you need also the traditions. So we know that there's just the gap between female and male players in chess has been much greater 50 years ago. It keeps narrowing, though it is still significant, but it's nothing that it was at Fischer's time or at the time when I was a world champion. So I think it shows that that in all different areas just of human activities, so the gap keeps getting closer because you have more and more women getting involved. But still, when you look at numbers of girls playing chess, and that's after age 10, and boys, the numbers are, I don't know, probably 9-1. So that's why it's simply you don't need enough traditions to put enough statistically enough numbers to actually create the same momentum on the female side.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks a lot for the talk. I had two short questions. The first one is out of curiosity. When AlphaZero plays against himself, Itself, sorry.
It's interesting, you said himself.
Yeah.
So once I said at your presentation, instinctively I called machine her.
Oh God.
And this is now because in Russian, machine will be a female, so that's why and then immediately I was just attacked from the audience.
Yeah, that's true. So against itself, what's the result? Only draws, or?
We don't know. This is interesting, no, actually no. It's an interesting. That's the answer. It doesn't actually understand. It doesn't finish the games. Basically, it reaches a point where they have evaluation, and it could say plus 0.6, which means 60% of the games it should win. So it's a projection of the result. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't have to finish the games. It's all about it ends with certain evaluation. So. But it's amazing. It's not, all of the games are draws. And the interesting question could be, what if you have, one version of AlphaZero playing against another one? Exactly. So that's okay. But here is, again, I have to confess, not my ignorance, but limit of my knowledge, since I'm not part of the experiment. And you have to ask Demis about it.
Sure. And another question, we talked about a few games, video games, and I wondered, most of these games do not use collaboration between players. Do you have thoughts on games like, for example, Bridge or the card games, where you have to play with a partner and you might have a human playing with a computer, and that might require interpretability?
I never heard about machine combining or playing with humans as a team in Bridge. Maybe I don't know about it. But so far we're talking about machine playing its own game. So that's even StarCraft. So it's about machines excelling in the game where it performs alone.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Gary. So we talked a lot about how AI is going to do good, but there are some premises where there's a lot of progress to be made, but not monetary progress. For example, let's talk about global warming, or let's talk about extinction of flora and fauna. And we have lots of data here in these fields. But, and of course, a lot of progress to be made, in protecting these things. Or let's talk about other issues like, how to eradicate poverty in the developing world and all that. And there we have lots of data. But how do you think this is going to pan out in future? The use of AI or this data-driven approaches, because no corporation is going to work on it. So how do you think?
Look, I don't hear the question because we have nothing to debate here. I think that's the factors that we have so much data that have been already allocated.
Yeah.
And this data is, I would say it has been totally abandoned or ignored, but naturally it doesn't given the same importance as it has to be, as it requires. But it's again, I actually hope that AI will start forcing us to do things that have been abandoned. Like I think, we'll go back to space. So sometimes I confront the audience saying that, in the 60s, every talented kid wanted to be a space engineer. In the 90s, every talented kid wanted to be a financial engineer. And I'm saying that my hope is that AI will kill enough jobs in financial industry to push kids back to space. So that's answering the question. So it's exactly, it's not about the good or bad. It's like a mirror. It shows us what's happening. And we say, no, we look at the screen. We look elsewhere. We just have to, AI tells us that we have to be, to recover the spirit of innovations and risk. So, and I think that, with such a massive power, we'll eventually go back to the roots of exploration.
Okay, thank you so much.
Hello.
Okay.
So, thank you. First of all, I would like to thank you for telling the truth about Russia. I'm from Russia, and I know it can be a non-trivial decision.
Look, we're in Switzerland. So,
right. So, but my question is more philosophical. So, and I'm interested in your vision for a bit more distant future. I'm not sure how distant it is. So if we go back to the Star Wars argument where the machine was predicting the odds and the human was interested in some other goal, and it seems that you tended to draw a line between machine goals and human goals. And if I may summarize it, we can say that machine was interested in something repetitive, in some kind of survival, and human was interested in self-expression and doing something else rather than survival. And question is, do you think machines can be better than us in that? You said that machines can be better than us in everything which is a closed system, and one can argue that self-expression, the goal of the human in your talk, can also be formally defined. For example, there are people here in Switzerland working in the Human Brain Project on full brain simulation, and we can define the goal of a human as the goal of that simulation. And then we can say run it 10 times faster, and therefore we have something which is better at self-expression than humans. And so going back to the very beginning of the talk, can machines be better than us in asking questions?
No, absolutely not. That's what I believe. Now, going back to the Star Wars, I'm not sure that we're on the same page here, because actually human was interested in survival, recognizing that being caught offers zero chance of survival. But this is something that machine cannot understand, because it will always look at the odds, and if one element of the picture could actually offer better rewards, human can understand it. Because if we try to quantify, try to make a diagram of Han Solo versus C-3PO, Han Solo knew that 1 out of 3,720 chances offered much bigger rewards. But how can you put numbers on these rewards? So from machine's perspective, this is dead end. So look back, we can get caught, but you never know what happens there, because there's so many unknowns. Explaining that being caught, it means you're dead, or even worse, being tortured. So it creates new, equations that that do not have, these simple answers that machine can provide, even by doing billions of iterations. I mean, let's have something very mundane. Just following this line. You have your e-wallet connected to your computer. Machine runs your finances. So it knows, it has all the data from you. So it knows about your salary, your bonuses, your mortgage rates, everything. And you are in the store, a gift store. You want to buy a gift. It's an expensive gift. A machine with a Siri voice tells you, you're off limits. Does machine knows the odds? Yes, it does. You're off the limit. Now, I make slight alteration to this very simple situation. You have your son or your daughter next to you, and it's a birthday gift. Does it change anything from a machine's perspective? No. You're still off the limit. Does it change everything for you? Absolutely. By the way, it doesn't have to be a very happy family. It could be a happy family, it could be a broken family, it could be weekend visitation. I mean, I could come up with billions of small iterations, and in any case, it's you who make a choice. Machine will tell you the odds, but the odds could actually go against greater good, and only you can actually start evaluating that. So that's why I still think that there's a human domain where so far I believe we are yet unbeatable.
So is it a matter of free will, or how do you define what
it's look, it's about certain components that are just cannot be quantified. Yeah, people say, can machine be a good producer of the movie? Technically, yes, I'm sure if machine does a movie, you always find 1 million people that will like it. 1 billion may not like it. But the problem is with the movie that is, there are no universal components to create a great movie. One of my favorite movies of all time is Casablanca. It just, it has a tiny budget and it was shot in 2 or 3 rooms. So it's this, and then any attempt to actually reconstruct it failed because there's kind of synergy that cannot be, again, quantified. So there's still human element, which I think, by the way, we have to develop further because machine will do other things for us and we can start thinking, why we're here? I mean, so what makes us so unique? So I'm happy to, to continue searching for it.
Thank you.
It was refreshing to hear your optimism. As Marcel said, it is easy to be a pessimist. But I have to be slightly cautious here. So you mentioned Waymo and driverless cars and said that the number of accidents in the US caused by deaths caused by humans driving is pretty high. Whereas driverless cars could be better. But if a human makes a mistake, at most 5 humans die. If there's a bug in the Waymo software, millions could die. The risk, I think, is being misrepresented when you just say that you just have to make fewer mistakes. Just because you make fewer mistakes now doesn't mean there'll be an unexplored bug which comes up next week and crashes the entire road networks.
Excuse me, how millions of people die from bug in one car?
Suppose we assume that driverless cars is the future and everyone's using way more software in their cars. And,
okay, it's a centralized attack. Okay,
attack.
Centralized system and an attack. So the same question is about electric grid. So this is a fact, our lives are exposed to our reliance on new technology. So that's why it's not just driverless cars. I could look at every element, from drinking water, so just, the tiny bit of bioweapon, could actually kill millions. So I think it's just trying to come up with a situation where the evil mind attacks Waymo system or anything else. We have to think about it, but it's going to happen anyway because we are getting more and more centralized. And driverless cars is not the only area where we're exposed. Actually, it's not even #1 area where we're exposed. That's my point. It's not about technology. Again, that's my point. It's about our society. It's about our ability to fight bad guys. Of course, terrorists today can do more damage to us than the entire army in World War II. 19 terrorists in a couple of hours killed more Americans in 2001 than the Japanese fleet and Pearl Harbor. So it's history of innovations which unfortunately could be used by bad guys to harm us.
But that was
not we have 5 minutes left. I just want to make sure we go to a maximum.
Can I just quickly? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here and 3 people there, 8 people.
So thank you for the wonderful talk. So I have 2 short questions. One is, did you ever, when playing chess, think, oh, I wish the rules were a little different?
No.
Okay.
No, I was quite happy. I've been playing chess for the last 50 years, and I'm quite pleased with the rules. So what we do now, so we experiment, we can reshuffle pieces in opening position. Rules are still the same. Yeah, but it's again, and there are many other versions of chess. So but I'm quite happy with, with the 64 squares and 32 pieces.
Yeah, and a somehow related question. Do you believe that closed games still have a future in driving intelligence progress? And what kind of games should we be looking for?
But it depends on our expectations. We would like to play games. Humans, it's better than gambling, I think. So there's a chance for us, as one of the previous questions stated, for self-expression. So that's why we keep playing these games. So what happens with machines? Machines could actually tell us what we did wrong. So for me, it's always good that you have a public now watching the game that Magnus Carlsen plays against Fabiano Caruana, the World Championship match, and instead of sitting there saying, how genius is, or they say, he made a mistake because I know a machine shows me. So it's a bit annoying, that even total amateurs can criticize world champion. But on the other side, you have a lot of people who could follow the game. So that's why I'm quite pleased.
So we have time for 2 more questions. Really sorry for everyone else, but we need to finish this at 10.
Hi, Gary.
We're in Switzerland.
Exactly, it's illegal actually to go.
Thank you for being here. My name is Juan. I work for ITU, and I sit on the Association for Computing Machinery's Practitioner Board. So I left Facebook recently because I'm interested in examining kind of the human impact of technology so we can make informed and considerate decisions as a society, as individuals. I think the problem is that, we have a limited resources. We only have one life. So I'm kind of curious about if you had 3 things, humanitarian causes that you would prioritize, what would they be?
3. I just, when you said Facebook, I wanted to say that we missed a moment where the original project, which was called Social Network, turned into social media, which, by the way, has totally different concept and applications. Look, it's not about 3. I want us, and I said it sort of in just a few instances at this stage today, I want us to recover the spirit of exploration. I think that's very important because exploration has so many positive effects. Yes, it involves risk, but it will also channel the energy. Because there's a lot of people now, I think they're stuck with with great ideas, but they don't know how to get there. And 4 years ago, I did a commencement speech at St. Louis University, Missouri, and I told this young students that today flying to Mars is easier and safer than for Columbus to cross the Atlantic, because at least you know the distance and you have the map. So I think it's very important for us to understand so that only exploration could actually bring us the results we covet. And it also will help humanity as a whole, because again, I believe that there's so many challenges that we are, climate change that we recognize, but we still, we're still thinking that we're not thinking about a future as something positive. I think it's a very dystopian vision of the future, and I think that paralyzes our ability to make these optimistic forecasts. So we want to live now. We want to get benefits now. So that's why we just, we want to postpone these bad decisions, like hot potato. We want to push this to future generations. I want us to assume responsibility and start acting now.
Thank you.
Last question.
Thank you, Mr. Kasparov, for being here. I'm asking this question. I apologize in advance because you said that we could be rude about our questions.
Yes.
So
I was waiting for 2 hours.
Last chance.
Then, okay. So I will start with the rude sentence. You were beaten by a machine.
Yes.
And
This was rude about it. It's a fact.
Yeah. But this happened in an intellectual task. It was something that you were trained, and it was a task that you were not just doing it, but you were thinking about it probably day and night maybe, and you probably loved it. And you were one of the first human beings that experience such an experience. And this will be something that will happen to many people in the coming years. You said radiologists, engineers, they all love their jobs, they all work on intellectual capabilities, and they will all be bested by machines. So I want to ask you that what kind of psychological effects such an experience have? And based on your experiences, when we start seeing this effect widespread in middle and higher classes in the society, what kind of changes do you expect?
Okay, by the way, it's not a rude question, so I think it's a very good one. I mean, first of all, we should recognize that certain things are inevitable. So I suffered serious psychological blow because I was the first one, and I didn't expect it. So, and I'm trying to share my experience to actually tell you that you'd better be prepared for certain moments to come. Now, does it mean that while losing this job, that we'll be totally wiped out? I don't think so, because I believe it should change the nature of these relations, not fighting machines, but actually working with them. So how we can do that is, it's quite a paradox, but it's a very natural one. So that machines are getting more and more sophisticated. It requires less and less knowledge to communicate with them. So you don't have to, like you see the kids swiping their finger, they can do more now with a computer than a professional programmer 20 years ago, spending a few hours, just pushing all the buttons on the keyboard. So also, I think people like me, just in their mid-50s, so they could actually find, it's a new interface working with this very sophisticated machines by sharing our expertise and offering something that machine may need. I don't have answers for everybody. I think it's very much, individual, maybe comes from industry to industry, but we'd better start preparing for the moment where we will have to, we have to look for a very different way of engaging with computers, because it's coming. I'm not, trying just to make you feel bad about it. To the contrary, I believe that, you should take, just a positive look and find what makes you unique and how you could make this machine more powerful by injecting a little bit of your ego and your intellect. That's all I can tell you. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks very much. So let me nevertheless ask the last question. What you're going to do in the next 5 years? What's your
5 years?
Yeah, 5. Let's make it 5 or 6. No, you're turning 56.
56.
So let's make it
5
4.
years. Look,
What's your vision? What's your goal? Where does Garry Kasparov want to be in 5 years? Right. So
sometimes I can hardly tell you what happens in the next 5 weeks. So I think that we're now living at a time. It's this with all these changes. I think that we actually reaching a point where there will be quite dramatic global changes. Climate change is one story, but I think we are witnessing now geopolitical climate change. So, and sometimes, when people ask me about the next 5 or 10 years, so I feel like a scientist who's predicting the end of our sun in 5 billion years. But I think that the world will actually, undergo through quite dramatic changes, because it's, there's certain moments that are like it's a nexus in history and a turning point. Somehow I feel that we are now closing this the big historical loop started in 1914. Because when you look at some of the conflicts that are just looming around the world now, like in the Middle East, it's still part of this, of the result of the World War I and collapse of Ottoman Empire. You look at Russia and Ukraine. I mean, there's many things that are somehow connected, because World War I led to World War II, and World War II to Cold War. And I think now what's going to happen now? I think we should understand the purpose, why we're here exactly. So what's going to happen? I think that last 25 years after the end of the Cold War, they were lost in identifying what's next for humanity. And I hope that now, recognizing that we have a political crisis, we have a potential technological crisis, we have a climate crisis, so we'll start thinking about our future. So what is the goal of humanity? Because we always had some great, vision of the future, and it always helped us. Right now, I think we're very much consumer society. It's all about incremental. It's all about, let's do little things here and there. So I want us to sort of recover our ability to think big, and I hope I'll be part of this, process of reconsidering our role, and will help everyone and humanity as a whole to make the difference. Thank you.
Excellent. We wish you all the best for that, and thanks so much for coming. And thank you all, and good night.